The blizzard hit Minneapolis like it had a personal grudge against everyone stupid enough to be outside. I was sitting in my apartment, watching the snow pile up against the windows, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my sister's number, but Megan never called this late. Not since she married Derek 3 years ago. Ryan? Her voice was barely a whisper, cracked and shaking. I need you. I muted the TV, my stomach already tightening. Megan? What's wrong? Where are you? Hennepin County Medical Center. The emergency room parking lot. I crashed my car. Lily's with me. She's okay, but Ryan. She started crying, the kind of crying that sounds like something inside her had finally broken. Mom and Dad kicked us out. In the middle of this storm, they actually kicked us out. I was already grabbing my coat, my keys, my wallet. What do you mean they kicked you out? I told them I was leaving Derek. I told them what he's been doing to me, and they said, she choked on the words. They said marriage is a covenant with God, that I made my vows, that divorced women aren't welcome in their home. Through the phone, I heard a small voice. Mommy, I'm cold. Lily. My 3-year-old niece, probably terrified, definitely freezing. Stay inside the hospital. I'm coming. 20 minutes. The security guard said we can't stay in the lobby. Visiting hours are over. We're in the car, but the engine died after the crash and I can't get it started again. Then go back to the ER. Tell them you need to warm up. I don't have insurance anymore. Derek canceled it last month when I first mentioned leaving. He said if I wanted to be on my own, I could start now. That sentence hit me like a punch. Derek had been planning this, cutting off her escape routes one by one while our parents, stood by and watched. I'm coming, I said. Stay in the car with the doors locked. Run the heater as long as you can. 20 minutes, Megan. Just hold on. I hung up and ran. The drive should have taken 15 minutes on a normal night. Tonight, with the wind pushing my Jeep sideways and the snow coming down so thick I could barely see my hood, it took almost 40. Every minute felt like an hour. Every red light felt like a personal insult from the universe. To understand why my parents would throw their own daughter into a blizzard, you have to understand the Carter family rules. They weren't written down anywhere, but they were carved into every holiday dinner, every Sunday church service, every conversation that ended with, "What would people think?" Rule 1. Carters don't air dirty laundry. Whatever happens inside the family stays inside the family. Smile for the neighbors. Pretend everything's fine. Rule 2. Carters don't divorce. Marriage is sacred, ordained by God, unbreakable by man. My grandmother stayed with my grandfather through 40 years of his drinking and his temper. My mother considered this a virtue. Rule 3. Carters don't embarrass the family. And nothing embarrasses the family more than a woman who couldn't keep her husband happy. I learned these rules early. I watched them destroy my Aunt Patricia, who'd left her husband after he put her in the hospital with a broken collarbone. She wasn't invited to Christmas anymore. Her name became a warning. You don't want to end up like Patricia, alone and bitter. Last I heard, Aunt Patricia was living in San Diego, remarried to a guy who adored her, happy for the first time in decades. But to my parents, she was dead. A cautionary tale about what happens when women forget their place. I thought things would be different for Megan. I thought maybe, just maybe, our parents had evolved. But then she married Derek. Derek Lawson was everything my parents wanted in a son-in-law. Successful real estate agent, good-looking, charming, the kind of guy who remembered everyone's name and always brought the right wine to dinner. My parents practically threw Megan at him, and she, desperate for their approval after years of never quite measuring up, caught him. The wedding was beautiful. The house was beautiful. Everything looked beautiful from the outside, which was all that mattered. But I saw things. Small things at first. The way Derek would correct Megan's stories at dinner, making her seem forgetful or confused. The way she stopped calling me as often, then stopped calling at all unless Derek was at work. The way her laugh changed, became nervous and quick, like she was asking permission to find something funny. The first time she showed up at my apartment with bruises on her wrist, she said Lily had pulled too hard while playing. The second time, she claimed she'd slipped on the ice. The third time, she didn't bother lying. He's so angry, she'd whispered, sitting on my couch while Lily napped in the bedroom. All the time. Nothing I do is right. The house isn't clean enough. Dinner isn't good enough. I'm not thin enough, pretty enough, grateful enough. Leave him, I'd said, the words coming out fiercer than I intended. Pack a bag and come here. Tonight, I can't. Her eyes darted toward the door like Derek might materialize through it. He controls everything. The bank accounts, the credit cards, even my phone. He checks it every night, Ryan. Goes through every text, every call. If he knew I was here, then we'll get help. There are resources, shelters, lawyers. And what about Mom and Dad? What will they say? I didn't have an answer for that, because I knew exactly what they'd say. They'd say she was exaggerating. They'd say marriage takes work. They'd say she needed to pray harder, try harder, submit more completely to her husband's will. That was 6 months ago. 6 months of Megan planning, documenting, preparing. 6 months of secret meetings with a domestic violence counselor. 6 months of building a case so airtight that Derek couldn't charm his way out of it. Tonight was supposed to be the night. She was going to stay with our parents while the divorce papers were filed, while the restraining order went through. Safe, protected. Instead, they'd thrown her out. The hospital parking lot was a frozen wasteland. I spotted Megan's car, a Honda Civic that Derek had bought her specifically because it had no resale value, stopped at a weird angle near the ER entrance. The front bumper was crumpled, probably from sliding into something during the storm. I pulled up beside her and got out. The cold hit me like a wall, stealing my breath. I yanked open her back door and found Lily strapped into her car seat, wrapped in Megan's coat, shivering but safe. Uncle Ryan. Lily reached for me with mittened hands. Hey, princess. I unbuckled her and pulled her against my chest. Let's get you warm. Megan climbed out of the driver's seat. Even in the dim parking lot lights, I could see she'd been crying for hours. Her face was swollen, her eyes red, her whole body trembling from cold and something worse. I didn't know who else to call, she said. I couldn't call anyone from the support group because Derek monitors my phone and I didn't want him to. Stop. I pulled her into a hug with my free arm, Lily sandwiched between us. You don't have to explain. Let's just get you both somewhere safe. We transferred Lily's car seat to my Jeep, grabbed the 2 suitcases Megan had managed to pack before our parents discovered her plan, and left her broken car in the lot. The hospital could deal with it. I'd deal with my family. The drive back to my apartment took another eternity. The storm was getting worse, the roads nearly impassable, but I kept going, driven by the sound of Lily's soft whimpers and Megan's ragged breathing. Tell me everything, I said once we hit the highway. From the beginning, Megan stared out the window. I told them yesterday, about Derek, about the abuse. I showed them the photos, the medical records, the journal I've been keeping, everything the counselor told me to document. And Mom said I was being dramatic, that all marriages have rough patches, that Derek is a good provider and I should be grateful. Her voice cracked. I showed her a picture of the bruises on my ribs, Ryan. The ones from last month when I burned dinner. She looked at it and said, well, maybe you should have been more careful. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. What about Dad? Dad said I was destroying the family's reputation. That if I went through with the divorce, I'd be dead to them. Just like Patricia. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. He actually said that. You'll be dead to us. Like that was supposed to make me stay with a man who's been using me as a punching bag for 3 years. So what happened tonight? I was packing. I thought they'd at least let me stay until the storm passed, even if they disapproved. But Derek called. He called their landline, and Dad answered, and they talked for almost an hour while I was upstairs trying to get Lily dressed. What did Derek say? I don't know exactly. But when Dad hung up, he came upstairs with this look on his face. This cold, dead look. And he said, Derek explained everything. How you've been lying, manipulating, cheating on him. She wiped her eyes. Cheating. Ryan, I've never even looked at another man. But Derek is so convincing, so charming. And they wanted to believe him. They chose their reputation over their daughter. They chose their idea of what a family should look like over their actual family. She glanced back at Lily, who had finally fallen asleep in her car seat. Dad told me to leave. Said I wasn't welcome until I apologized to Derek and committed to saving my marriage. I tried to argue, tried to show them more evidence, but Mom just kept saying, we didn't raise you to be a quitter. I pulled into my building's underground garage, safe from the storm at last. They were wrong. You know that, right? They were completely, absolutely wrong. I know, but her voice wavered. I know it here. She tapped her head. It's harder to know it here. She pressed her hand against her heart. My apartment had never seemed smaller than it did that night. One bedroom, one bathroom, a kitchen that barely fit two people. I gave Megan my bed, set up a makeshift crib for Lily using couch cushions and blankets, and claimed the couch for myself. We stayed up for hours, talking through logistics. Lawyers, restraining orders, bank accounts, custody arrangements. Megan had been preparing for months, but preparation felt different when you were actually standing in the wreckage of your old life. The counselor said the most dangerous time is when you leave, Megan said, clutching a cup of tea like a lifeline. That's when abusers escalate. That's when they feel like they've lost control. Derek won't find you here. Derek finds everyone. She said it with the certainty of someone who'd learned it the hard way. He has a tracker on my phone. I turned it off before I crashed, but he'll figure out where I am. He always does. I took her phone, removed the SIM card, and dropped the whole thing in a glass of water. Not anymore. She watched the phone sink like she was watching a part of herself drown. He's going to be so angry. Good. Let him be angry somewhere else. The next 3 days were a blur of activity. Megan met with a lawyer, filed for divorce, and got a temporary restraining order against Derek. I took time off work, used up vacation days I'd been saving for some hypothetical trip I'd never take. Turns out there's no better vacation than helping your sister rebuild her life. Lily adjusted faster than either of us expected. Kids are resilient that way. She missed her toys, her room, her routine, but she didn't miss the tension. She didn't miss the sound of doors slamming and voices raised. For the first time in her short life, she was in a house where no one yelled. She's sleeping through the night, Megan marveled on the third morning. She hasn't done that since she was born. I thought it was colic, but maybe. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. On the fourth day, Derek found us. I was at work when my apartment security camera alert went off on my phone. The footage showed a familiar figure in the hallway, pounding on my door, shouting something the microphone couldn't quite pick up. I called Megan immediately. Don't answer the door. Derek's outside. I know. Her voice was calm, calmer than I expected. I can hear him. He's threatening to break it down. I'm calling the police. Already did. They're on their way. A pause. Ryan, I need to talk to him. Absolutely not. Through the door, he needs to hear it from me. That it's over. That he doesn't control me anymore. Against every instinct, I stayed on the line while she walked to the door. Through her phone, I heard Derek's voice, slick and manipulative even in rage. Megan, baby, open the door. We can work this out. I know you're confused, but this isn't you. This is your brother. Filling your head with lies. No, Derek. Her voice didn't waver. This is me finally seeing clearly. For the first time in 3 years, you're making a huge mistake. Think about Lily. Think about what this will do to her. I am thinking about Lily. I'm thinking about what it would do to her to grow up watching her father abuse her mother. Thinking she deserves to be treated that way. Learning that love means control and fear. I never abused you. He said it with such conviction that I almost believed him. That was his gift. Making everyone question reality. I disciplined you. There's a difference. You were out of control, Megan. Someone had to set boundaries. Boundaries. She laughed, sharp and bitter. Is that what you called it when you threw me against the wall? When you locked me in the bedroom for 2 days because I talked to a male colleague at a party? When you told Lily that mommy was sick and couldn't come out? You're exaggerating. You always exaggerate. I have photos, medical records, a journal with 3 years of documentation. And right now, I have a restraining order that you're violating by being here. Silence. Then, quietly dangerous. Your parents agree with me, you know. We talked. They understand that you've been manipulated by your brother, by those women at that shelter, by everyone except the people who actually love you. My parents threw me out in a blizzard with a 3-year-old. If that's love, I don't want it. I'm going to get custody. The charm was gone now, replaced by something cold. You have nothing. No job, no money, no home. What judge is going to give a child to a homeless woman living with her bachelor brother? A judge who sees the evidence. A judge who talks to Lily's pediatrician, who's been documenting her anxiety symptoms for 2 years. A judge who interviews the neighbors who heard you screaming at me through the walls. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Multiple footsteps. Then an authoritative voice. Sir, we received a report of a disturbance. Are you Derek Lawson? Officers, thank God. This woman has kidnapped my daughter and, sir, we have a restraining order on file. You're required to stay at least 500 feet from Megan Lawson. You're currently violating that order. The rest was muffled, Derek's protests fading as the officers led him away. By the time I got home, the hallway was empty and Megan was sitting on my couch. Shaking but whole. He's gone, she said. For now, you were incredible. I sat beside her, standing up to him like that. I was terrified, but I kept thinking about what you said, about how they chose reputation over their daughter. And I realized that's what I'd been doing too. Choosing the appearance of a marriage over the reality of abuse. Staying because leaving would mean admitting failure. Leaving isn't failure. Leaving is survival. She leaned against my shoulder. When did you get so wise? Around the time my sister showed me what real courage looks like. Derek was arrested that night. Violating a restraining order isn't usually enough to keep someone locked up, but he made it worse for himself. He resisted arrest, threatened the officers, and when they searched his car, they found a baseball bat in the trunk. For protection, he claimed. The judge didn't believe him. Neither did anyone else. The custody hearing was 2 weeks later. Derek's lawyer tried every trick in the book, painting Megan as unstable, accusing me of alienating Lily from her father, even suggesting that Megan's injuries had been self-inflicted. But the evidence was overwhelming. The photos, the records, the journal, testimony from the domestic violence counselor, from the pediatrician, from 3 different neighbors, and most damning of all, a recording Megan had made on her phone 6 months ago. Derek admitting that he had to hit her sometimes because she wouldn't listen. He'd forgotten she had it. She'd almost forgotten herself, buried in the thousands of documents she'd collected. But the counselor had helped her organize everything. And there it was. His voice, his confession, his undoing. The judge granted Megan full custody with supervised visitation for Derek if and when he completed an anger management program. Based on his behavior in court, I doubted he'd make it through. That left our parents. They came to my apartment 3 weeks after the blizzard. I'd been expecting them, dreading them, preparing for them. When the buzzer rang and I saw their faces on the security camera, part of me wanted to pretend I wasn't home. But Megan was stronger than me now. Let them in, she said. I need to say goodbye. They came upstairs with flowers, as if this were a social call. My mother was dressed for church, my father in his weekend golf attire. They looked like they always looked. Respectable, proper, completely unwilling to acknowledge reality. Megan. My mother reached for her. We've been so worried. Megan stepped back. You weren't worried when you threw me out in a blizzard. You weren't worried when I crashed my car with your granddaughter in the back seat. You weren't worried when Derek threatened to break down the door. That's not fair. My father's voice had that disappointed tone I knew so well. We were trying to help you see reason. Marriage is a commitment. Marriage isn't supposed to be a death sentence. Derek put me in the hospital twice. He controlled every aspect of my life. He was grooming Lily to see abuse as normal. And when I told you that, when I showed you proof, you chose him. We didn't choose him. My mother's voice was plaintive. We chose the sanctity of marriage. We chose tradition. We chose what's right. You chose wrong. I stepped beside Megan. And now you're here to do what? Take her back to Derek? Convince her to drop the charges. What exactly is the play? My father straightened. We're here to offer reconciliation. If Megan is willing to apologize for her part in this unfortunate situation, her part? I interrupted. What part? The part where she got beaten? The part where she was financially abused? The part where she had to sneak around for 6 months just to build a case against her own husband because she knew her parents wouldn't believe her? You're exaggerating. Derek is a good man who made some mistakes. Derek is in jail. He was arrested for violating a restraining order with a baseball bat in his trunk. The judge gave Megan full custody because the evidence of his abuse was so overwhelming that even his expensive lawyer couldn't spin it. At what point do you start believing your daughter? My mother was crying now, but I couldn't tell if it was genuine remorse or just embarrassment at being wrong. We didn't know. We didn't understand. You didn't want to understand. Megan's voice was steady, stronger than I'd ever heard it, because understanding would mean admitting that your perfect family image was a lie, that you raised your daughter to accept abuse as normal, that your precious reputation was built on my silence and my suffering. I'm not finished. Megan held up her hand. For 3 years, I tried to be the daughter you wanted. I stayed with a man who hurt me because I was more afraid of disappointing you than I was of him. Do you understand that? I was more scared of your judgment than I was of his fists. The words hung in the air. My father looked away. My mother covered her mouth. But I'm not scared anymore. Megan continued. Not of him and not of you. If you want to be part of Lily's life, you'll need to earn it. Therapy, real apologies, actual change, not just words designed to smooth things over and preserve appearances. And if we can't do that, my father asked, then you'll be exactly what you threatened. Dead to us. Megan's voice didn't waver. But at least we'll be alive. Really alive. Not just surviving. They left without the reconciliation they'd come for. I watched them walk to the elevator, looking smaller than I remembered. Older, less certain. The titans of my childhood, the judges of my every action, revealed as ordinary people with ordinary flaws. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that they'd chosen pride over their daughter. Sad that Lily might grow up without grandparents, at least not these grandparents. But sadness isn't the same as doubt. I knew we'd made the right choice. The months that followed weren't easy. Megan got a job at a local nonprofit, entry-level but with benefits. I converted my office into a real bedroom for her and Lily. We developed routines, shared responsibilities, built a household that ran on mutual respect rather than fear. Lily bloomed. Her nightmares stopped. Her anxiety faded. She started preschool and made friends and came home chattering about finger painting and playground adventures. She was becoming the child she was always meant to be, free from the shadow of her father's rage. I don't know how to repay you, Megan said one evening, watching Lily build a tower of blocks on the living room floor. You're not supposed to repay family. You're just supposed to show up. That's not how we were raised. No, it's how we're choosing to be. She smiled, and for the first time since the blizzard, it reached her eyes. Lily asked me today if Uncle Ryan was going to be her new daddy. What did you tell her? I told her that Uncle Ryan is better than a daddy. Because daddies sometimes leave, but uncles who show up in blizzards stay forever. I looked at my niece, completely absorbed in her blocks. Completely safe. Completely unaware of how close she'd come to a very different life. And I thought about my parents, about Derek, about all the ways family can fail each other. But I also thought about Aunt Patricia in San Diego, happy at last. About the counselors and lawyers and police officers who'd helped Megan escape. About the neighbors who'd finally spoken up. About all the ways strangers can become family when blood relatives fall short. You know what's funny? I said. I spent my whole childhood trying to earn mom and dad's approval, getting good grades, the right job, following all their rules. And I never felt like I measured up. I know the feeling. But now, doing this, helping you and Lily build a new life, I finally feel like I'm doing something that matters, something real. Megan reached over and squeezed my hand. You are. The tower of blocks collapsed. Lily laughed and started again. Outside, spring was finally arriving, melting the last of the winter snow. And in my small apartment, a new kind of family was putting down roots. Not the family we were born into, the family we chose. The family that showed up when the storm hit and stayed when the skies cleared. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever is. But it was ours. And that was more than enough. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt like you didn't belong in your own family, if you've ever wondered whether love was supposed to hurt this much, you're not alone. Subscribe if these stories resonate with you. Hit that notification bell so you'll know when I'm back with another story. And leave a comment telling me about your experience. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and doing what's right? What did you decide? Tomorrow I'll be here with another story about families, choices, and the courage it takes to build something new from the wreckage of what we thought we knew. Until then, take care of yourself. You deserve it.